All right, what is up, everybody? Very excited about going through the PillBug lab with you, which is what this video is about. All right, so lesson plan. I think you guys are catching on to this pretty well. It is now time for 7th period. Report to your 7th period class. Just kidding. All right. All right, so here we are, PillBug Lab, step 1, watch how to edit PDFs with Kami video. Maybe some of you are already familiar with that. That'd be great. If not, here's how you do it. I showed you how to add it to your Chrome extension, your Chrome browser. It'll be really important that you have that, so make sure you watch that first, and now open PillBug Lab once you've got it. Open with, annotate with Kami. I'm actually curious to see what it looks like from the student perspective, but anyways. All right, so we're going to start off this investigation with asking a question, as you do in any scientific investigation. First of all, what is a PillBug? Commonly known as a roly-poly. I've always called them roly-polies until I did this lab, and this lab calls them PillBugs. So since then, I've called them PillBugs, but call them whatever you want. I don't care. And then answer the question, do PillBugs have a preference for wet or dry environments? So we're studying human behavior, but we're also revisiting other topics, such as the scientific method process, which is the topic that we're discussing this week. And we're also, at the end, we're going to do some fancy scientific statistics. You're probably wondering, why are we doing math in a biology class? I've had that question many times. Well, the answer is, how do you think scientists figure anything out? They use math. They do statistics in any field. So, that out of the way, in the other video where I actually did the experiment, I showed you the materials, and then I gave you a chance to make observations. I placed the PillBug not in a beaker, but I kind of tracked one with my phone to let you look at it and make observations, just real short. You're observing their natural behavior for a couple minutes. Now, is it really their natural behavior? No, it's probably scared because I just dumped it out of a box into another box. Or, I don't know, maybe it's just completely oblivious to my presence, but anyways, so describe your observations. So come over here, click text box, insert 3 text boxes, and type in some observations that you make. Could be physical observations or observations about how it looks like it's behaving. I did knock it upside down one time, now that I think about it, to give you a view of what it looks like on the underside. But remember that this investigation is to study animal behavior, so maybe that could lead you through your observations that you make. So this is within the first steps of the scientific method. We have to make educated hypotheses, and therefore we need observations. And then you're going to perform a detailed sketch. It would be advantageous if you did this on a touch screen of some kind. So maybe you can work that out, figure out how to do that. If not, you can use a mouse like me. Come over here and click on this and draw yourself a nice little PillBug. I'm not going to show you my drawing because it would be terrible. Actually, if I did, it would give you something to strive for. It would kind of give you what base level drawings would look like, and so you could strive to do better than that. But I'm not going to take the time to do that. Look at that. That there is a PillBug, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they look like exactly. They're even pink. All right, so the next step was to test the bug's behavior to wet or dry climates. To do this, gather a choice chamber apparatus from the materials desk, label with tape or paper, one side wet, one side dry. And you notice when you watch the video that I did that. I actually walk you through all these steps. Cut filter paper, put it on both sides, tape it down. The first time that I recorded this lab, I left one of the little sides of tape, one of the corners was stuck up, and immediately every one of the pill bugs just piled up under that tape, and some of them stuck to it. I had to get them off of it. But that should give you a little insight into their behavior. They found the first little corner for safety that they could find. I'm kind of the same way, you know. I like to hide in corners too when I feel threatened or it's safe. Maybe I'm a pill bug. So at this point, the wet side should have moistened filter paper, and the other side has dry, completely dry filter paper, which it does. You can see in the video. You can confirm that. Before you add the pill bugs, create an alternative hypothesis and a null hypothesis, something you've probably never heard of before. An alternative hypothesis you have heard of. It's the normal hypothesis you've heard of all throughout your science career. It is a hypothesis that might be that more pill bugs will choose the wet side than the dry side. So that's based off of our observations. Now, it's not an if-then format, which is the proper way to do it. In AP Biology, a lot of times the hypotheses that are listed are not an if-then format. But I think it makes it, it shows the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable if you do it in if-then format. If you need a reminder on that, go back to the scientific method video that I did. So here I want you to, where it says hypothesis H sub A, I want you to put in a little text box what you think the hypothesis, the alternative hypothesis is. Remember, it's what you think will happen. It is the independent variable and what you think the dependent variable will show. The independent variable is what you test, dependent variable is what actually happens. And so then the null hypothesis, what the heck is that? Well, if you're familiar with the word null, maybe you understand that it means no, or it's not what's going to happen. So the null hypothesis, on the other hand, is the control or default position on an experiment. For example, the null hypothesis might be that pill bugs have no preference for either wet or dry environments, and equal numbers of pill bugs should be found on both sides of the choice chamber. All right, so then go in there right here and list your null hypothesis. It's very important for you to understand what a null hypothesis is and be able to do one on your own, because you're going to prove, or you're going to, that's what you're going to set out to reject, is your null hypothesis. As it says here, it is important to note that scientists never prove a hypothesis. Something you've probably never heard of before. We simply reject or fail to reject our null hypothesis. For example, if comparison of two groups, treatment or no treatment, reveals no significant difference between the two, it does not mean that there is no difference in reality. It only means that there is not enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. In other words, the experiment fails to reject the null hypothesis. If you're highlighting or whatever, I would highlight that. It's also in your notes under the statistics realm. I'm not sure what page it's on, but it's in there. That's what you're going to say. You're going to say fails to reject null hypothesis, or you're going to say reject the null hypothesis. But if you reject the null hypothesis, that supports your alternative hypothesis, but does not prove it. Science doesn't work that way. It doesn't work with absolute yes or no. It just means we learned a little bit more, and so we're going to do more to learn a little bit more until we get a big picture painted about what we're trying to figure out. We're not going to determine everything about all the variables about what these pill bugs prefer, but we are going to collect some empirical, some quantitative data to support our alternative hypothesis. At the end of this guided inquiry, we will either fail to reject that there is no preference for wet or dry environments, or reject that there is no preference for wet or dry environments. That's the end goal here we're going to try to figure out. We're going to use some statistics to figure that out. All right, so we gathered 16 bugs. We placed them. I got Mr. Austin to help me. I placed 8 on one side, 8 on the other side, and then we started the timer. We put the caps on them, and we let the video run for 10 minutes. So then next step, it says to calculate the sum, calculate the averages, sum being add them all up, average being add them all up, divide them by the number that you have. So we're taking 0 to 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, divide that by the sum. Then you're going to create a bar graph which displays the average number of pill bugs on each side of the choice chamber, and then calculate the standard deviation and standard error of the mean for each group. Use the standard error of the mean to draw error bars on your graph. Use the plus or minus 2 SEM to create 95% confidence intervals. And then use the chi-square analysis to analyze 10 minutes. So all this part right here is complete gibberish, except for create bar graph. Standard deviation, standard error of the mean, that's when you need a calculator such as this, TI-30XS. Now, this not necessarily this specific one. This is just what I have a class set of. TI-84 also allows you to calculate standard deviation, standard error. And I'm going to have to do a separate video to show you how to do all the statistics. So right now, what you need to do is watch the video and collect all the evidence. It takes about 10 minutes. I think the video is like 13 minutes long. And then I will show you how to input this into your calculator to calculate. I'm not going to work out the problems to get standard. I used to do that while we're in class, but I think I'm just going to show you the calculator, and that's all. If you do not have a calculator, I can let you borrow one. You can find one at Walmart. It is in your materials list, so you are going to need one. There's also emulators, if you know anything about emulators, that you can download that emulate a scientific calculator on your phone or on your laptop. Wabbit Emu is one. Wabbit Emu. WABBIT EMU. EMU. Or, just get a calculator. You're going to need it for the AP exam. All right. So now go in, collect that data, watch the other video where I go through the statistics with you.